It was just after 7 o'clock in the morning when Emily Carter opened the refrigerator and stared at the same carton of leftover mac and cheese. The same meal Jason had scoffed at the night before. "Don't you think you've had enough?" he had said, his voice dripping with the same disgust he no longer tried to hide. Emily stood in the quiet of the kitchen, still barefoot, still wearing the oversized sleep shirt that barely hid the 325 pounds she carried every day like a sentence. But heavier than her body was the silence between them, the cold, bitter kind that had taken root over years. Jason wasn't always this cruel. In their early days, back when they lived in a cramped one-bedroom apartment near Elm Street, he would leave sticky notes on the fridge that said, "I love your smile," or "You make me feel like the richest man in Dallas." Now, he barely looked at her. And when he did, it was with the same distant judgment he gave to junk mail or spam calls. That Friday morning, Emily overheard him on the phone in the garage. His voice was low but clear enough. "Yeah, the launch is on track. Once the paperwork's filed, she's out of the picture. I'm not dragging that weight into a new chapter." That weight. He wasn't talking about her opinions. He was talking about her body, her presence, her life. Emily felt something crack, not just inside her chest, but somewhere deeper, somewhere quieter. The kind of break that doesn't scream, but whispers. Enough? By noon, Jason left for another strategy session at his downtown office. Emily stood in the mirror for what felt like the first time in years. Her eyes were swollen, but dry. Her hair was uncombed, and her skin had lost the glow it once held. But more than that, she saw someone who had been erased by years of emotional erosion. That afternoon, she grabbed a notebook, sat at the kitchen table, and made a list. She titled it, "Non-Negotiables for My Comeback." At the top, take back my health, reclaim my identity, build my own money, redefine my values, find real prosperity. These weren't dreams. These were promises. The first time she stepped on the scale that week, the numbers screamed back, 325 pounds. She didn't cry, she didn't flinch, she wrote it down. It was just data, not a definition. Over the next few days, Emily stopped eating to numb the silence. She started walking around the block. Just 5 minutes at first, then 10. She drank more water. She researched nutrition plans that worked for women like her, not influencers, not celebrities, real women. Women who knew what it was like to walk into a store and to never find anything above a size 18. On Monday, she quietly canceled the fast food delivery subscription Jason didn't even know they still had. She replaced it with fresh groceries and planned meals. Not out of shame, out of respect. For her body. For her values. For her future wealth and health. Jason didn't notice. He didn't ask why she wasn't joining him at dinner, or why the fridge suddenly had salmon instead of sodas. He was too busy talking about his new company, his new partners, and a rebrand he couldn't shut up about. But Emily was rebranding too. Not for him, not to win him back, for herself. The turning point came 2 weeks later, when Jason came home late, reeking of expensive cologne and cheap decisions. "I'm not hungry," Emily said when he offered the untouched takeout box. Jason shrugged. "Suit yourself. Might be the last time you eat like this before the lawyers call." He smirked, thinking he had all the power. But Emily, in that moment, smiled for the first time in years, not at him, but at herself, because she had already started losing something far heavier than pounds. She was losing fear and gaining freedom. The cold air in Dallas that February bit through Emily's oversized sweater as she walked through the quiet streets of her neighborhood. It was just after 6 o'clock in the evening, the sky painted in shades of pink and blue. She had walked nearly a mile, the longest distance she'd moved on foot in years. As she passed the small bakery near the corner of Maple and Fifth, she noticed a flyer in the window. Wellness class for women, all ages, all sizes, free first week. Emily stood there for a moment, heart racing, unsure if she was ready to be seen. But something inside her whispered, "Just walk in?" So she did. Inside the small studio, the air smelled like lavender and hope. A group of women, all shapes, all ages, were sitting on yoga mats, laughing, talking about recipes and life and kids. Nobody stared. Nobody whispered. For the first time in a long time, Emily didn't feel like the biggest person in the room. She just felt welcome. "Hi, I'm Rachel," said a tall woman with curly red hair and warm eyes. "You new here?" Emily nodded. "Yeah, I'm Emily." "Well, Emily, welcome. This is a safe space. No judgment, no perfection. Just progress." That night, Emily stayed the full hour. She didn't do every move right. She lost her balance more than once. But she laughed. She stretched. She sweat. She left the studio smiling. Back home, Jason was sitting on the couch, scrolling through his phone. He barely looked up. "You were gone a while," he muttered. "I went to a class," she said, taking off her shoes. Jason glanced at her and chuckled. "You? A fitness class? Babe, they're gonna need a bigger mat." The words hit like bricks, but Emily didn't flinch. She had heard worse. And now those words didn't stick the same way they used to. They weren't her truth anymore. Later that week, Emily signed up for a nutrition coaching app. She met with a virtual coach named Marsha every Wednesday at 5 o'clock. They talked about health, not weight. About values, not calories. Marsha helped Emily learn how to eat for energy, for mood, for strength, not shame. Emily learned about money, too. How to make healthier food choices without overspending. How to cook at home, how to prep meals, how to read labels. And for the first time in years, she felt in control of her life, her body, and her future prosperity. Every Sunday, she meal prepped for the week. Baked chicken, roasted veggies, whole grains. She started keeping a journal called My Path to Health and Wealth, where she wrote her daily wins. One entry read, "Lost 5 pounds, gained self-respect." Jason never asked about her progress. He was too busy showing off Instagram photos of him in boardrooms, sipping espresso in downtown Dallas, talking about wealth and scaling his brand. But Emily had begun scaling her own life. Quietly. By the end of February, she had lost 15 pounds. Not just from her frame, but from the way she carried herself. She no longer apologized with her eyes. She no longer stepped aside to make others comfortable. She walked taller, smiled more, slept better. And one morning, standing at the bathroom sink, Emily looked in the mirror and said out loud, "I'm not invisible." Because she wasn't. She was changing, and she wasn't going back. The spring air in Dallas had a crisp bite to it that March morning, but Emily welcomed it. She had just finished her third full loop around the neighborhood, over 2 miles. Her sweatshirt clung to her back with sweat, and her legs ached, but she didn't stop. She was learning that growth didn't feel comfortable. It felt earned. When she got home, the kitchen was empty. Jason had left early for a pitch meeting with some investors. He had been throwing words like seed funding, equity, and valuation around the house like confetti. "I'm building real wealth now," he'd said 2 nights before. "Not just money, legacy." Emily had smiled politely, but inside she thought, legacy built on lies isn't legacy at all. After her shower, she stepped on the scale. The number blinked back, 297 pounds. She stared at it, then laughed, deep, grateful, and free. That was 28 pounds down. But the real shift was in the mirror. Her face had more color, her eyes had more light, her walk had more purpose. That afternoon, Emily sat at her laptop and opened a new spreadsheet. The header read, "My Wellness Wealth Plan." She tracked every healthy meal, every walk, every small win. She added tabs labeled mental health, financial freedom, personal values. She wasn't just losing weight, she was building a new kind of prosperity. A few days later, Jason invited a few colleagues over. Emily offered to prepare snacks. He waved her off. "Nah, we'll order something upscale. This isn't a backyard BBQ. These people understand high-level business, real money, real vision." Emily didn't respond. She simply walked away and made a protein smoothie. She no longer wasted her voice where it wasn't valued. When his guests arrived, Jason played the charismatic founder. All charm, all ego. "This company's not just a product," he said, swirling his drink. "It's a mindset, about values, about disruption, about building generational wealth." Emily stood quietly in the kitchen, out of view but within earshot. One of the guests asked, "So, is your wife part of the business too?" Jason laughed. "Emily? Nah, she's not exactly boardroom material, if you know what I mean." The group chuckled. Emily didn't cry. She didn't storm out. She simply took her smoothie, walked outside, and sat on the porch with her notebook. That night she wrote, "Let them laugh. I'm building something they can't see yet." A week later, Rachel from the wellness class introduced her to a part-time remote job helping women organize digital files for small wellness startups. It wasn't glamorous, but it paid money, and more importantly, it gave Emily purpose. Every dollar she earned went into her new savings account labeled Freedom Fund. It wasn't just about the money, it was about independence, about reclaiming value, her own. By the end of March, Emily had crossed the 284-pound mark. She bought a new pair of jeans, size 22. They zipped without effort. She looked in the mirror and whispered, "You're coming back." And for the first time in over a decade, she believed it. April rolled into Dallas with bursts of sun and long, golden evenings. The streets felt lighter, and so did Emily. By mid-month, she had dropped below 270 pounds. But it wasn't just the pounds. It was the shame, the guilt, the years of thinking she had to shrink to be loved. One Saturday morning, she stepped into a boutique just outside Deep Ellum, a place she used to walk past and think, "Not for me." But now she ran her fingers across the racks like they were made just for her. The shop owner, a woman named Denise, smiled and said, "Try it on, sweetheart. You deserve to feel good in your skin." She left the store with her first size 18 dress in over 10 years, pale blue, soft fabric, a simple belt. At home, she put it on just to stand in front of the mirror, her hair pulled back, her cheeks with a natural flush from movement and clean eating. She looked alive. Jason walked in. He froze in the doorway. "You're dressed up," he said slowly. "I just liked how it felt," Emily answered. He stared for a second too long, then said with a shrug, "You know, if you had cared about your looks like this years ago, maybe we wouldn't be where we are." There it was. The reminder, the blame, the cold stab. But Emily didn't crumble. Not this time. She tilted her head and replied, "Maybe if you had cared about more than looks, we wouldn't be either." Jason scoffed, grabbed his keys, and left. The following week, Rachel invited Emily to speak at a small wellness event. Just a casual talk, 15 minutes. The theme, transforming pain into purpose. Emily hesitated, but something in her said yes. She stood in front of a group of 30 women in a rented community hall on April 12th at 6 o'clock in the evening. She wore her blue dress. She didn't bring a script. She just spoke from the place that had once held all the hurt. I used to think I was only worth what I looked like, that if I wasn't small, I didn't matter. But what I've learned is that health is about so much more than numbers. It's about freedom, about waking up and not hating yourself. It's about choosing your own values, not the ones someone else forces on you. I've lost over 50 pounds since January, but more than that, I've gained strength, peace, and a future I get to define. The room erupted in quiet, teary applause. One woman came up to her after and said, "You reminded me of me. I needed to see what was possible." That night, Emily cried in her car. Not from pain, from purpose. Her side hustle had grown too. She was now organizing online events for wellness professionals. One of the startups she worked with paid her $500 for a week's work. That money went into her Freedom Fund. Jason noticed she'd stopped asking him for money. "You getting rich over there?" he joked one morning. Emily sipped her coffee and smiled. "I'm building something real." It wasn't about riches in the way he meant. It was about wealth she could feel. In her bones, her choices, her breath. By the end of April, she weighed 266 pounds. She hadn't felt this strong since her 20s. She took a photo in her backyard, hair up, face glowing, sunlight behind her. She captioned it, "This is what healing looks like." And for the first time, her post wasn't about weight. It was about worth. May came in like a quiet storm, the kind that doesn't rattle windows, but shifts everything on the inside. Emily had crossed a milestone she once thought was impossible. At her latest check-in, the scale read 259 pounds. She stared at it for a moment, stunned. That was 66 pounds gone since January. But more than that, she had reclaimed herself, piece by piece. Every morning she now had a routine. Wake at 6 o'clock, walk 2 miles, journal over black coffee, cook breakfast, work, nourish, repeat. It wasn't just about health anymore. It was about discipline, about values, about honoring herself the way no one else ever had. Jason, on the other hand, had become louder, not in volume, but in energy. His startup had launched, and the money had started rolling in. "Emily, we just hit 5,000 subscribers," he said one night while scrolling through his phone. "You realize how much money that means? This is the kind of thing that builds real wealth, legacy level." She nodded quietly. But in her chest, there was no pride left in his success. Not because he didn't earn it, but because she knew what he sacrificed to get it. Respect, loyalty, her. She also noticed his new assistant, a 25-year-old named Kara, had started calling the house. Too often, at odd hours. Once, she even heard her giggle through the speakerphone. Emily didn't ask. She didn't need to. She just took the information in like she would any weather report. Rain was coming, that's all. One afternoon, while Jason was out, Emily sat at his home office desk to print some forms for her digital organizing work. When she opened the drawer, a file caught her eye, labeled Asset Split, Preliminary Draft. She pulled it out. Her name was on it, and so was Kara's, listed as business partner and successor. The document wasn't final, but it was real. Her heart didn't race, it slowed, because in that moment she saw the man fully, all the way through, and she didn't feel rage. She felt clarity. That night, Jason came home late. "Working late?" she asked casually. He nodded, loosened his tie. "Yep, big day. Might have something major to offer you soon, actually." She raised an eyebrow. "Oh yeah?" "Yeah," he said, with a grin that didn't reach his eyes. "You've changed. Looks good on you. Might be time to put you on the company's face. Something symbolic, kind of a redemption angle. Consumers love that story." Emily felt the air drain from the room. She wasn't a woman to him. She was a pitch, a marketing tool. She said nothing, just smiled and walked upstairs. That night she sat in bed and wrote in her journal, I am not your before and after story. I am not your brand. I am my own. Days later, Rachel offered her something unexpected: a chance to co-host a virtual summit for women entrepreneurs in wellness. "It's time," Rachel said. "You have a voice. Emily, use it. Your story holds value, real value." And for the first time, Emily believed that her pain had purpose. Her struggle had become strength. Her silence had turned into a platform. She recorded a video introduction for the summit, speaking straight from her living room. Simple background, soft lighting, her voice steady. "In January, I weighed over 325 pounds. I lived in a house filled with money but not kindness. I gave everything and felt like nothing. Now I've lost over 60 pounds. But what I've gained? Boundaries, voice, strength, my health, my prosperity." The video went viral in under 48 hours. Not because she looked perfect, but because she sounded real. By the end of May, she'd received over 100 emails from women across the country. Women saying things like, "I saw myself in you. You gave me permission to try again. You made me believe I'm worth more than someone's backup plan." Emily responded to every one of them. She wasn't chasing riches in numbers. She was building wealth in connection. And deep down, she knew. Jason had no idea what was coming. The Texas sun in June was merciless, but Emily Carter felt lighter in every way. By the first Monday of the month, her weight had dropped to 248 pounds. That meant 77 pounds gone since January. But numbers aside, it was the way her body moved that told the story. Strong, steady, confident. She was no longer afraid to take up space. Every morning now began with lemon water and meditation. Then came a 4-mile walk, followed by emails from women she'd inspired across the country. Her name had started floating around small wellness circles. A podcast invitation here, a guest blog post there, even a virtual workshop with a brand focused on health and prosperity for women over 35. Emily wasn't chasing fame. She was following alignment. And slowly, the world was following her back. Meanwhile, Jason had become a storm in a glass house. Moody, sharp, restless. The pressure of his company's early success had turned into stress. Kara, the assistant, wasn't just helping with spreadsheets anymore. Emily knew. She just no longer cared. He came home one night on June 12th around 9 o'clock, clearly irritated. "Emily, why are people tagging me in some viral video of yours? Do you know how that reflects on my image?" She stayed calm. "It reflects honestly. You're riding the wave of my company's name to grow your little movement." She looked up from her laptop. "I didn't mention your name, not once. But if you feel seen, that's not on me." Jason stormed upstairs. Emily closed her laptop and exhaled. For the first time, his anger didn't shake her. His chaos wasn't hers to carry anymore. That weekend, Rachel and a few women from the wellness group hosted a brunch to celebrate Emily's viral video and her growing platform. The event took place at a cozy cafe on the outskirts of Dallas, with sunflowers on every table and music humming low in the background. As Emily walked in, now wearing jeans 2 sizes smaller and a flowy white top, the room erupted in soft claps and warm hugs. "You're changing lives," one woman whispered, "mine included." Emily stood up to speak halfway through brunch. "I used to think I was a failure, that the weight I carried meant I wasn't worthy of love, of respect, of being seen. But I've learned that our worth isn't in our size. It's in our values, our resilience, and our vision for what comes next. This isn't about pounds lost, it's about power reclaimed." Tears flowed, hearts opened. Something sacred shifted. Back at home, Emily found an envelope taped to the fridge. It was from Jason. Inside, "I want out. I'm giving you full control of the old partnership contract. The new company is moving forward without you." And scribbled below, "You win." Emily didn't cry. Instead, she walked out to the porch, her journal in hand, and wrote, "I didn't win. I evolved. And I don't want his empire. I'm building my own." That night, she launched her own digital community, a safe space for women chasing health, prosperity, and emotional freedom. She called it the Real Wealth Project. It wasn't about money alone. It was about richness in soul, purpose, self-love. By the end of June, her community had grown to over 3,000 members. Women were sharing recipes, financial tips, personal breakthroughs. And Emily? She was just getting started. Her voice wasn't just loud, it was leading. By early July, the Dallas heat had turned ruthless. But it couldn't touch Emily Carter. Not anymore. She stood in front of her bedroom mirror on the morning of July 4th, wearing a sleeveless navy blouse tucked into a pair of white jeans, the kind she used to avoid, the kind she never thought she'd wear again. The scale now read 238 pounds. She'd officially lost 87 pounds. But the bigger weight was gone from her heart, from her back, from her soul. Downstairs, she heard her phone buzz. It was an email from a major wellness podcast inviting her as a guest. Subject line, "Your story changed me." She smiled, heart full. Not from validation, but from impact. Later that day, Emily hosted a small barbecue in her backyard for her wellness circle. Rachel brought fruit platters, someone else brought grilled veggie skewers, and Denise from the boutique gifted Emily a necklace that read, "Worthy." The women laughed under string lights and shared stories that felt like oxygen. Emily looked around and realized something. This was real prosperity, connection, sisterhood, belonging. Around 8 o'clock, just as the sky started popping with fireworks, Jason showed up at the edge of the yard. He looked different. Or maybe it was just that Emily saw him differently now. "Hey," he said, almost sheepish. "Hey," she answered, voice steady. "I heard about your site and the podcast stuff," he said. "It's impressive." "Thank you," she said, polite but distant. He shifted awkwardly. "I was thinking, maybe there's a way to bring you into the company now, as a partner, public face. Could do a lot for branding, redemption story and all." Emily let the silence stretch. She looked him straight in the eyes. "Jason, I'm not interested in being your rebrand." He blinked. "You used to want to be part of it." "No," she said calmly. "I used to want to be seen. There's a difference." He stood there, unsure of what to say next. Finally, she added, "I don't need your company. I built my own, from scratch, with my own values, with my own hands, and the only thing I'm offering now is distance." Jason lowered his head. "So that's it? That's freedom," she said. "That's health. That's real wealth." He left without another word. The moment he walked away, Denise whispered to Emily, "That man doesn't even realize you became the woman he never deserved." That night, Emily climbed onto the rooftop of her home and sat beneath the stars, alone but not lonely. She opened her journal and wrote, "I am not a side note in someone else's story. I am the author of mine, and every chapter forward is gold." She looked out over Dallas, the city where she'd been humiliated, heartbroken, and almost erased. Now she was rooted, empowered, whole, and she still had one more chapter to write. By the 1st of August, Dallas felt like fire on concrete, the kind of heat that slows traffic, softens resolve, and makes even the loudest city feel still. But inside Emily Carter's world, something was rising. Not sweat, not tension, power. Her weight now sat at 220 pounds. That meant 105 pounds lost in just under 8 months. But even that number felt small compared to everything else she had gained. She was invited to speak at a major women's leadership event in downtown Dallas. The panel title, Building Real Wealth, From Breakdown to Breakthrough. In a room of over 300 women, she took the stage wearing a tailored emerald green dress that hugged her in all the right places, bold and soft all at once. Her hair was pulled back in a low bun, her presence calm but commanding. "I was once told I didn't fit the image," she began, voice steady. "Not for love, not for business, not for success. And for a long time I believed that lie. But I've come to learn that real wealth isn't about applause or followers. It's about alignment. It's about living your values out loud and building a life where you don't have to shrink to belong." The room went silent, then full, then loud. Tears, applause, hope. Backstage, an executive from a national wellness brand approached her. "Emily, we'd love to collaborate. Content series, maybe even a brand ambassadorship. Let's talk money and mission." Emily smiled. "Only if it aligns with health, dignity, and real prosperity for women. That's my baseline now." "Fair," the woman replied. "We need more voices like yours." A week later, she signed her first paid partnership deal, enough to cover 6 months of living expenses. But she didn't use that money to upgrade her car or wardrobe. Instead, she put most of it into her non-profit fund, the Real Wealth Project, to help women in transition find support, coaching, and resources. She even launched a scholarship in her mother's name for women over 30 restarting their lives after divorce or abuse. Jason saw the press release online. He sent a message the next day. "I just read about your foundation. You've built something bigger than I ever imagined. I was wrong about everything. I don't expect forgiveness, but I needed to say it." Emily read the message in silence. Then she deleted it, not out of anger, but out of clarity. Some people are meant to be lessons, not lifelong characters. One evening, around 7 o'clock, as she walked along the Katy Trail, Emily passed a woman sitting alone on a bench, crying softly. She paused. "You okay?" Emily asked gently. The woman wiped her face. "Rough day. Divorce stuff. I just feel like I'm too broken to start over." Emily sat beside her. "You're not broken. You're becoming. I thought I was too far gone once, too. I was over 300 pounds, invisible in my own marriage, humiliated every day. Now I run my own business. I speak on stages. I help women remember who they are." The woman stared at her. "That's you? Emily Carter?" Emily nodded, smiling. The woman whispered, "You gave me hope." And that was it. That was everything. Back home that night, Emily stood in her backyard barefoot, staring up at the stars. She whispered into the dark, "Thank you for every no, every bruise, every betrayal. They were the soil. This is my bloom." In the distance, cicadas hummed like a quiet symphony. Her journey had started with pain, with loss, with shame, with silence. But now, she had turned all of it into gold. And she wasn't done. Not even close.